a program to implement some kind of one world government, which takes away our sovereignty and implements the whole green agenda, the Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, which is manifest in the climate, the Paris Climate Agreement, and all kinds of other things as well. And the more you look into it, the more it's obvious that these things are going on, and nations are working in lockstep together to implement the plans of the World Economic Forum and the Council for Foreign Relations and all these other institutions that until recently not many people knew about, but now it's becoming plainly obvious that they exist and what they want.
Hi, I'm very, very pleased to welcome David Kurten today. He is head of the Heritage Party. If I'm correct, you're a chemistry graduate, and in an earlier career you taught chemistry more or less all around the world, and were very heavily involved in UKIP as well before the Heritage Party.
Yeah, that's both right. Yeah, I did chemistry at university in St Andrews, and I graduated a long time ago now. It's actually about 30 years ago. So yeah, then I was a chemistry teacher for a very long time, both in this country and in some schools abroad as well. And as you say, I got involved in UKIP in the good days of UKIP, so 2013 to 2016. I was very actively involved fighting for the referendum, which seems an awful long time ago now. But yeah, then with UKIP, I was obviously a few weeks before the referendum, I was elected onto the London Assembly. So I'm also probably known as someone who was on the London Assembly giving lots of questions to Sadiq Khan as well for 5 years or so. But so after the referendum, UKIP went downhill. I left, and then I set up the Heritage Party to be what I think the country needs, which is a socially conservative party that actually sticks to conservative principles. I would completely differentiate myself from what I call the fake conservatives, because I don't think they're pretty conservative at all. They should be taken to the Trades Description Tribunal, I think. But hopefully, people will see that we represent what's just simple common sense. So that's what I'm doing now, leading the Heritage Party.
Good. And the thing I really wanted to talk to you about today was, and I've seen you tweet about this, that replacing one main party with another main party is more or less a waste of time. And I wanted to ask you about the sort of globalism, because you were one of the very first people that called out, globalism, New World Order. Can you explain why you thought that, and have you been proven to be correct as time has gone on?
Yeah, I think all of the 4 or 5 parties which are in Parliament and are sort of seen as and described by the mainstream media as the major parties, which is kind of patronising to all the other parties in the country. But the fake Conservatives, Labour, Lib Dems, Greens, and SNP are all signed up to what I'd call the globalist agenda, which is ultimately to remove national sovereignty from the nations and give it to these unelected bodies. First of all, it was the EU. They're all for the EU, including half of the Conservative Party, and you wonder about the other half. But now we're out of the EU in name only. We're not fully out, but there's all these other organisations that have appeared and have made themselves known that we're also members of or beholden to in some way, and our sovereignty is going to them. And they're not just European, they're global. So we got the United Nations, which I think most people just thought before was this benign sort of thing that sits in the background and does peacekeeping. But over the last 5 years, it's become pretty clear that it's actually a beast with quite strong teeth that wants to grind up our national sovereignty, with a lot of the agencies that are connected to the United Nations, like the World Health Organization and so on, the World Economic Forum, and that's a private organization, but it's all the same kind of figures that seem to go to all of the same kind of global conferences, and they talk about implementing a new world order. This is not a conspiracy theory. George Bush Sr. spoke about the new world order in the 1990s and implementing a new world order, and he said we will be successful in doing that. And so this clearly a program to implement some kind of one world government, which takes away our sovereignty and implements the whole green agenda, the Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, which is manifest in the climate, the Paris Climate Agreement, and all kinds of other things as well. And the more you look into it, the more it's obvious that these things are going on, and nations are working in lockstep together to implement the plans of the World Economic Forum and the Council for Foreign Relations and all these other institutions that until recently not many people knew about, but now it's becoming plainly obvious that they exist and what they want.
Yeah, and do you feel, I mean, has that helped you build support? Because it's, I mean, I have to admit, it sounded pretty far out in sort of early 2020. I thought this, I mean, I was even one person that thought it's unlikely that these globalists are really running the policy here. But as you said, over the last 2 years, the evidence now is almost irrefutable. Do you feel that's bringing people into your party and more people agreeing with that now?
Yeah, I think more and more people are becoming aware of this, awake to this, and so on, and are thinking that they don't want this for the nation, and are thinking, what on earth are we going to do? And we're going to get involved some way. You know, not everybody is getting involved in politics yet, but some are, and we need more people to get actively involved in politics. But I mean, obviously, the last 2 years, everyone knows the terrible situation of lockdowns and what that did to businesses and education and individuals and all of our health and mental health and so on. So everyone can see, you know, that we've been through an absolutely terrible time for no good reason whatsoever. It was just to try to implement this tyrannical system, and people are becoming aware of the central bank digital currencies and the digital identity systems and the social credit systems like they've got in China, more and more and more. I mean, this is no secret. You can see what's happening in China, how people have got these smartphones, and they've got the apps on the smartphones, and the government can just turn them red, and then you have to go and quarantine in your home. That's what they want to bring in everywhere. And it's not too far-fetched to say that, because you've got the most populous country in the world that has already implemented this. So more and more people are becoming awake to this and want to stand up against it. So yeah, there are some people coming into politics, and we've got some people have joined the Heritage Party for that reason. But see, I'd like more because we need to build the same kind of people's army that we had to fight for the referendum. Again, to fight the globalism of the New World Order and the World Economic Forum.
And how do you avoid sort of splitting? Because you have, you know, Reclaim, Reform, Heritage, and a few others. How do you avoid always being a sort of fragmented opposition and leaving the door open to just the 2 or 3 main parties to come in over and over again, while everybody else is sort of fragmented into unconsolidated opposition, as it were?
Well, yeah, this is a question people ask me a lot. For me, I say it's very disappointing that people decided to stand against me when I first stood in the London elections, because, you know, I was on the London Assembly for 5 years. I was defending my seat on the London Assembly and also standing for London Mayor. And when I started the Heritage Party, there was nobody else doing anything at all in the space. You know, the UKIP had wound down. They weren't doing anything. They were fighting each other rather than fighting elections. The Brexit Party had deactivated. Reclaim didn't exist. And so I started the Heritage Party to actually you know, make an impact in that space, and to actually stand for socially conservative principles, stand against wokery, stand for national sovereignty, but against all this New World Order stuff and against lockdowns and so on. But as soon as I started the Heritage Party, then you had all these other people pop up and say, oh, we're going to do this as well, and pretty much copy what I'm saying, sometimes word for word, but then also stand against me. So it was quite disappointing, particularly in the London elections, that happened, because you'd think, well, people would have liked what I did in questioning Sadiq Khan and would have come behind and supported me, you know, whatever they did somewhere else. You know, I can't change what other people do. That's democracy. You know, but we do, you know, quietly behind the scenes, you know, make arrangements on local levels not to stand against some of the other parties who are fighting for freedom in some places. So, you know, it's nothing that we announce. But, you know, quietly, I think it would be sensible for parties that sort of standing for similar things, not to stand against each other. And it was possible to do that in the local elections, where there were so many seats for councillors this year. In May, you know, there were over 6,000 seats up for grabs. Next May in the local elections, there'll be 8,000 seats in local elections in England and Northern Ireland. So there's a lot of scope for working together with other parties and not standing against each other. The big question, obviously, is what happens with the general election when that comes, whenever that comes. It's likely to be in May 2024. So I would like to be big enough with the Heritage Party to stand a candidate everywhere, to give everyone the choice to vote for a really socially conservative party. I don't know if we'll be big enough then or not. If we're not, again, I would be happy to quietly, you know, make arrangements with other parties, like we have done in some cases, to not stand against each other in certain seats. I'm not going to announce anything like that, but I would like, honestly, to stand everywhere, because there are some things that we do stand for that nobody else stands for. Nobody else stands for the sort of specific mix of policies and principles that we do stand for. So I think it's important to give people that choice if they want that choice.
Yeah, maybe say a few words. I mean, I've read the prospectus. I thought it. I mean, it very well is captured in the word heritage. I think is really what your party stands for. It is about preserving the culture and the traditions and the things that made, you know, Britain great, that seem to be the things that the government and the opposition are trying to destroy right now. That's my feeling.
Yeah, look, I love the word, and I'm so happy that it was free, because when you register with the Electoral Commission, there's about 300 parties already. So there's a lot of names that I thought of that are already taken, just by parties that are dormant and sitting on the name. But there was no heritage parties. I thought, I'm going to have that name, and I'm going to register it quickly. So yeah, but it really does, you know, encapsulate.
It's perfect. Yeah.
It's great. It's sort of like, you know, conservative sounding without being conservative, you know, but it is about saying we have a wonderful heritage as a country, and that heritage is being ruined on many levels from many sides, and we just have to fight everything off and restore our heritage again, and just, you know, restore what our forefathers built for us, you know, and then we can be prosperous, and we can be free, and that's what we want. So our sort of like strap line is freedom, family, nation, which sort of encapsulates sort of what we stand for in 3 words. But then obviously we got the manifesto beyond that with lots of principles. And yeah, it's standing up to defend our heritage and say that our country is good, and protect our culture from being torn down, you know, by people who want to tear down statues and monuments and all that kind of thing. I mean, that's the outward physical outworking of it. But then you've got sort of more metaphysical thing where people are destroying the fabric of society and destroying free speech, and no platforming people with traditional views, and also, you know, physically as well, trying to ruin our towns and cities by putting up ugly tower blocks everywhere and not respecting the historical character of the beautiful towns and cities we've got. I mean, it's horrible when you go to some places where you know they were beautiful once in history, but someone's built this horrible like carbuncle in the middle of the city somewhere, and it just makes it ugly. You know, you can see that happening all over the place, and we want that to stop, and we want to reverse that. But, you know, also, as I said, we're a socially conservative Conservative Party. So there's three things I ask all my candidates, and not everyone can agree to these three things. One is that there are two sexes, male and female. I think most people can agree with that, because that is one of the absolutely crazy things that has come over the last 5 years. The whole transgender agenda has come out of nowhere, and it's absolutely insane. So I think almost everyone would agree with that. But also, you know, we stand for traditional family values, traditional marriage. Marriage is a man and a woman, and we don't agree with redefining the family and redefining marriage like the progressives want to do. And we're also pro-life party, so we're against abortion. We say unborn children are children from conception and have the right to life. And, you know, we have now nearly 10 million children, unborn children, have been killed in this country since 1967, which is a horror. And, you know, people need to realize the scale of what's going on and the horror of what's been going on with abortion over the last 55 years, sorry. And so we are, you know, we stand for the rights of the unborn child as well, and which is a socially conservative position. And so, you know, there's three things that I think not everybody who is a libertarian or a classic liberal would agree with, but we say there's an awful lot of people in the country who've got nobody to vote for if they stand for those socially conservative principles as well. And that's why I think it's important for us to stand everywhere, because there's some things that we would agree with some of the other parties, but none of them would agree with all of those things.
And is it that your experience that UKIP was sort of mobilising, you said, an army almost to get the sort of Brexit vote? You think that can be repeated in defending the sort of heritage, as it were? Now you can really mobilise a lot of people to make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. People were so motivated to get the referendum, to win the referendum, to come out of the EU, which was a specific one issue thing. And, you know, obviously UKIP grew into a party and nearly became something that could break through the first past the post system. But then just when it gets to it, it all collapsed. You know, Farage left, and then it turned into Yugoslavia and collapsed, sadly. But, you know, we need to build that again, and for a different purpose now, to restore our heritage, and all of these things sort of come together, I think, with the sort of principles that I put in our manifesto, which will set our country on the right course again. It is basically whatever the progressives are wanting to do to ruin our country, we just need to do the opposite and push back on that progressive agenda in every single area that they're pushing it.
Yeah. And as you said, the Conservatives certainly are not doing that. They're the fake Conservatives. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, they've been heavily infiltrated, you know, from the time of Cameron. You know, Cameron is, when he came in, from that time he was called the heir to Blair, so he didn't do anything different to what New Labour had done over their disastrous 13 years in power, and he just carried it on. So we now got 12 years of fake Conservatives, which is the same as New Labour. And you have CCHQ vetting all of the candidates that are put up for the Conservative Party, so-called Conservative Party. And if you don't adhere to the socially progressive agenda and the globalist agenda and the green agenda, you're not going to get very far in actually becoming a Conservative candidate. So the whole thing is rigged there to keep people out who have got traditional values, and to put people in who are going to ruin and corrode our traditional values. So they're gone. They are irredeemable. And, you know, I know there are some people out there who still think, oh, we can turn the Conservative Party around and we can make it do good. No, you can't. It's gone. You have to give it up and do something else. And we're building something new, which is the Heritage Party, which will grow, and we will become the force that will restore our nation. And we just need people to come and join us, believe in us. And the more people that come and join, the more people that come and make a new people's army to restore our heritage and restore our nation, the quicker and easier it's going to be.
Yeah, yeah. And just I was thinking about money as well. I mean, how much of that is an issue now? Because like a big sort of party will be spending, you know, £40 million a year, whatever it happens to be, between 50 and 30 That's their annual spend, and a lot of it's funded by, in the case of Conservatives, you got a lot of, wealthy individuals funding that. Can you really fight them when you're starting a new party and you obviously don't have that level of funding? How does that? Can you get there to 2024 so that you're a real force to be reckoned with?
Yeah, well, it's a very good question, and it's true. Money is a massive issue. We need lots more money. You do in politics to actually get anywhere. I mean, we are still small. We don't have an awful lot of money. All that we have at the moment comes from members, joining, donating, and small donations. That is a barrier that we're going to have to get over. So, but I'm hoping that we'll have a good result in the by-election this week. I don't know when the people are going to be watching that, but the by-election might have passed by the time people are watching. But there's Tiverton and Honiton on the 23rd of June. So I'm hoping for a good result there, and I'm hoping to make progress, and I'm hoping to see if there are more donors who are willing to donate, because obviously the more money we have, the more we can do. Because at the moment we're very small. I mean, I'm working full time on this, and I don't get paid, so I can't do this forever. And there's going to come a point where we're going to need to get some more money. And you're absolutely right, because it's an expensive business to be in, and I hope that people will support us with financially, as well as the people who can, as well as people who can give time and energy. And we appreciate everything. Every single person who can give something, we appreciate it. But you're right. It is a factor in politics.
On the time and energy, what kind of help are you looking for in the organisation? Are you looking for volunteers in the grassroots, or in the central administration, or how do you see that?
We need both. I mean, there are some places where we've got active branches going with fantastic coordinators. We've got really good active groups in Surrey and Berkshire and Northern Ireland and West Sussex and London, for example. But we need more coordinators all over the place, to do things, and to get members together and to grow the parties and to grow the grassroots. So yeah, we definitely need more people who can give time on a local level, and then we need people who can also help with that administration as well, centrally. And obviously if we had a lot of money, we could put in place a proper team of people, because you'd have someone dealing with comms, you'd have someone dealing with campaigns, and then membership, and then press and social media and digital and creative. You have all these things in a normal party that's got a lot of funding. So I'd like to have all of that, but at the moment that's all voluntary. I do a lot of it myself, so I do appreciate.
But if someone looks up on your website, can they see, if they have a skill that they think would be useful to the party, they can look up through the website and do that? I mean, I just filed in a general form, a contact form. Would that work if somebody wanted to become involved? Could they just fill in the contact form, or what's the best way?
Two ways that people can do that. So people can volunteer on the website, and there's a form that you can fill in. You give your name and address and say what you'd like to do. But then you can also become a member. And when you're a member, you join as a member. It's not much. It's £25 a year to join for a year. But then you can sort of say, when you join, what things you'd be interested in doing, whether it's like leafleting, coordinating, policy development, or social media or graphic design, things like this. So when you become a member, you can say you're interested in doing certain things as well.
Good. Okay. And just one thing about the money, I've looked at some Conservative funding, and let's say it's coming from a very dubious place through offshore companies. Is the other part of this equation that kind of money should be cut off? I don't want to go into the specifics, but that money doesn't belong in UK politics. It's not coming from UK nationals. It's coming from offshore companies. And, is the other way to get a level playing field to say, well, actually, you should be funded by grassroots, and it should be primarily physical individuals who are UK residents who are funding your party, and actually all this piece of money doesn't belong here. That would even up the scales, but at least compared to Conservatives.
Well, as far as I know, that's illegal anyway. That's not allowed. As far as I know, the funding rules say that you can only accept donations from UK citizens or residents who are on the electoral roll, or UK
Corporations.
your corporations that
Yeah,
are.
but the corporation then is owned offshore. That's the trick.
Right. So, well, they should be registered. Yeah, they've got to be registered with Companies House.
They are, but then the real money is coming from abroad.
That's
So
a
it's
loophole.
just a sort of, it's a loophole, and it's
This
been
loop
identified.
needs to be closed.
Needs to be closed. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's really, they set the rules, don't they? The people.
Yeah, and there's nobody in a hurry to close that loophole.
Yeah.
Does that surprise you?
Yeah. I know. I mean, you wonder though, if they close that loophole, they might find another loophole.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I mean, the only way to deal with this is actually for people to actually, to come and vote for us, and to actually have an uprising at the ballot box and to reject all of these parties. It nearly happened, didn't it, in 2019 in the Euro elections? The top two parties were the Brexit Party and the Liberal Democrats. It swung, and the Labour and Tory both went right down. But then by the time of the next general election, a few months later, it swung back again, didn't it? Because they'd elected Boris as leader, and he was, he promised to get Brexit done. So, but they didn't do it properly. But yeah, it nearly happened. We need that to happen again, and I think the time is coming when it will happen again. Is people are so fed up of both Tory and Labour, and I think there's going to come a time when no matter how much money they have, they're going to get hammered, and people will reject them. And I hope that happens at the next general election.
Yeah, and I think you have a very positive agenda. So, I like the party a lot, and we'll definitely put up here the links, and what anyone who wants to volunteer can do, and also to the manifesto as well, which is, I think, well worth reading. It really sets out pretty clearly the policies. So,
thank you. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Well, thanks very much, David. Is there anything else that we could pass on for you, or do you think you've covered everything?
I think, a very good questioning gave me a chance to talk. Do have a look at heritageparty.org is our website. So that's where you can find out more about us and join up.
Good. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Good luck. Good luck this week in Honiton.
Great.